So with a traditional audio guide, we would normally have some, typically a central informative voice part, and then we'd put underneath that a background track of appropriate music and sound effects, and then we'd build that together to make a nice soundscape. And what we would do is use that and trigger it, possibly by the user themselves, but not necessarily. We could also trigger it using some sensor in a room. We're doing an audio guide for a historic building, for instance, or it could be triggered by GPS if we're doing like a city walk guide. But essentially what we've got there is a linear audio track where it's got a very fixed start and an end, and the user can decide how long they want to listen to that. And that's basically all they can do. They can just start and listen to it from beginning to end. But with augmented reality, we're suddenly opening up a whole load of new dimensions. And the exercise that we were doing here with the castle was learning how we could best utilise audio to take advantage of all these other dimensions. And the main thing that is different is that the user is being immersed in the environment. So he's the one that decides what he's listening to, and in terms of when it occurs and even the location and the proximity to these sounds. And we need to provide audio which is going to give him that feedback, that sense of reality that you're actually there in this environment. So for example, if the user decides he wants to investigate an object that's making a sound and wants to go nearer to it, we'd expect that sound to get louder and even clearer. And likewise, if there's a sound in the background, say outside a room, we would expect it to be more muffled. And also, if he moves around, we might want to have the sounds moving from his left ear to the right ear to make it match his experience. So what we have here is one of the soundscapes for the Castle Riot project. And if you listen to this, you can hear there's quite a lot going on in it. So,
oh, well, it's too late to go to Goose Fair now. Oh,
so
Mum.
We've got
You haven't finished undoing
the
those
main
threads,
voice
have you?
part, which you can hear if I just mute all the other tracks. This is the main dialogue, which we expect to give the story. And there's a voice part between a mother and the son. And we've also got underneath that some sounds of their needlecraft work, and all you can hear there is occasional clicks, and maybe we'll hear some scissor snips and things moving on the table. Now what we can do in augmented reality is we can separate those two sounds so that if the user decides they want to focus on the hands, we can hear more of the needlework sounds and the voice, and that's the sort of thing we can do. There's another important thing here. We've got the sound of a log fire in the background that's just crackling away nicely, but typically in a room that would be in a specific location, and the user could get nearer to that point, in which case we'd expect that sound to get louder and the others to drop down. And we've also got here on these three tracks the background sound. These are the sounds that are coming from outside of the room. So you've got the sound of a fair and crowds of people, quite quiet and quite muffled, and a bit of singing. And again, this is a sound which, if the user chooses to go perhaps nearer to a door or a wall, they might want to hear a bit more of that. The problem that we had in managing all these sounds is that the more different audio tracks we had that were interacting with each other as the user moved around or used this project, the more the load it put on the devices. And we want the public to be able to come in with their own devices, and some may have quite old devices that may really struggle to run if we've got too much going on. So we had to then make a decision on, well, can we combine some of these sounds to try and make it easier? So things like, for instance, the fire in the background and the background fair sounds we could make into one, and we would just say, well, they're so far in the distance, we're not going to allow them the possibilities of interacting with those. And by doing that, we could just reduce the amount of power needed by the devices. It was a question of working out what can we do that best gives the experience of augmented reality but still enables this to run on a wide variety of the devices that the public have.